Darkness crept into my mind like a black cloud. Looking back, it was 100% clear I should have been suspicious the first time my wife came home from her art gallery job with a smile wider than a lottery winner's. But back then, I was a naive fool, trusting my wife more than anyone else in the world. 17 years together, Tracy had never given me a reason to worry, not even a little bit. My first instinct was to comfort her, assuring her it was just a new client. That instinct was wrong, dead wrong. My name is Bobby Sprague, a dry, boring software engineer, but I love my wife like crazy. Tracy, my woman, is a beautiful, intelligent, and very independent flower. We met at UNC, dated for 17 years, and have been married for 16. Our little family includes a 14-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son, little flowers adding color to our lives. My job at a defense tech company provides a comfortable life, but I'm not a billionaire. I make enough for Tracy to be a stay-at-home mom, taking care of the kids. But 2 years ago, she decided the kids were old enough, and she wanted to spread her wings. Tracy got a part-time job at a high-end art gallery in town, living out her childhood love of art. There, she was surrounded by rich and powerful people, a whole other world compared to our everyday lives. Sometimes, Tracy would drag me along, attending gallery openings and events. I gotta admit, rubbing shoulders with big-time CEOs, politicians, lawyers, and bank presidents was pretty cool. Guys like me, glued to computers all day, don't get these kinds of opportunities very often. But after those fancy parties, Tracy would often come home in a foul mood. She felt like a bird in a cage, hating our normal life. She'd complain about everything, from how I washed the dishes to how the kids ate. Sometimes I'd just shut up and take it. Other times, I'd sneak out for a run, just to get away from Tracy's constant negativity. For a few weeks, Tracy couldn't stop talking about a new client, a crypto genius named Jackson Aloysius Fairchild. This 28-year-old billionaire had just moved into a mansion and wanted to fill it with art, showing off his status. Tracy seemed very impressed, but she also expressed concern that he seemed a bit insecure. She described Jackson as a handsome guy, always dressed impeccably, and a lover of athletic activities like cycling, squash, and tennis. Now, it's not uncommon for Tracy to gush about her clients, but this time something felt different. I could hear the excitement in her voice, and jealousy started to brew in my gut. 2 weeks passed, and I didn't hear Tracy mention Jackson again, but the suspicion lingered. Then one night, at the gallery's Christmas party, I met the guy. Jackson Aloysius Fairchild was a brilliant, tall, muscular guy. He had an aura of charm, a fancy Armani suit, and a killer smile. I gotta give it to him. He was definitely handsome, even by my standards, a guy tired of the same old routine. I only talked to Jackson for about 30 seconds when Tracy introduced us, but in that brief time I saw how he was looking at my wife, greedy, like a tiger eyeing its prey. Tracy was too busy chatting with everyone to notice, but I couldn't miss the arrogance in his gaze. Tracy continued mingling, and I headed to the bar. I grabbed a bourbon and found Kenny Johnson, the husband of one of my wife's colleagues. We talked about a sci-fi movie we both loved. A little later, I saw Tracy chatting with a group of people, and Jackson was all over her. I went back to the bar, grabbed a bottle of Riesling for Tracy, and headed over to the group. I introduced myself, handed Tracy the wine, and then discreetly reached around her right side, removing Jackson's hand from her back. He didn't say anything, just smiled at me as he put his hands back on his body. I chatted with the group for a few minutes, then Tracy moved on, and I followed in a different direction. I made sure Jackson didn't follow her. I expected to see Tracy doing her thing, while I mingled with some of her colleagues. But, after about an hour, I couldn't find her anywhere. I quickly looked around a second time, and Jackson was gone, too. My gut was churning, so I put in extra effort to find Tracy. I didn't find her in the gallery, or the offices, so I went out the front door and started walking around the gallery. There were small groups of people chatting in the parking lot with coats on, looking like they were about to leave, but no Tracy. Then I spotted a couple getting pretty cozy in a black custom Lincoln Navigator. The car was running, and they were sitting close together on the center seats, connected like a love seat. I didn't even bother looking to see if it was Tracy and Jackson. I assumed it was. I walked up to the car and opened the door next to the woman. The people in the car jumped at the sound of that, so all I could be sure of was that they were not kissing, but they were close to it. "Time to go, honey. Now," I said in the most polite but firm voice I could muster. We were just," Tracy stammered as Jackson smiled at me. I don't care. Time to go, I said, my voice just above a whisper. Really, Bobby, you gotta get in here and hear this sound system, Jackson said. It's really amazing. The radio was on, playing some kind of orchestral music with pizzicato arco bass and timpani drums. I don't think either of them were really listening to the music. Another time, Jackson. We really gotta go, I said, my voice as emotionless as I could make it. I ushered my wife out of the car, and we started walking towards where my Ford F-150 was parked. Wait, I can't leave. The party goes on for another 2 hours. I have to stay the whole party and do one of the meet and greets, Tracy said, her voice laced with desperation. If your boss has a problem with this, he can call me directly, I said. What the hell do you think you're doing? We were actually listening to his car's sound system. It's amazing, she said in a breathless voice. Yeah, I replied, my voice devoid of any fear. Tracy's anger was a raging storm. It came on strong and swept away everything. We got home, she was silent, her eyes cold, and refused to talk to me. Tracy played the innocent victim so well, I started to doubt myself. In the days that followed, the atmosphere in the house was thick, like a black velvet curtain draped over everything. Tracy would usually have outbursts of anger, but this time she was scarily silent. 2 weeks passed, and the ghost of Jackson Aloysius Fairchild continued to haunt my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling of being betrayed, of being lied to. I decided I needed help. Reed Powell, my college roommate, a smart lawyer and an all-around crazy genius, was the only person I could trust. Reed was a lost puppy when we were roommates freshman year. I wasn't God's gift to women, fashion, or social graces, but I was good at navigating people, and I could hold my own in conversation. I took Reed under my wing, helped him build a functional wardrobe, and introduced him to smart, kind girls who were perfect for him. He slept with 6 girls over 4 years of college. I also introduced him to Heather, the love of his life, his wife, and the mother of his kids, a fact he's eternally grateful for. After law school at Duke, Reed got a job in New York City for a top firm. He was their fixer. It was the perfect job for a ruthless genius. With boundless creativity and a cunning mind, he could miraculously solve problems for the rich and powerful in a way that was smooth, with no drama. On the phone, I described the situation with Tracy. I gave him all the info I could verify about Jackson. Reed said he'd look into it. Things finally got easier between Tracy and me over Christmas week. The gallery was usually closed the weeks before and after the holidays, and Tracy and I actually got back together, bonding both in and out of the bedroom. Things were back to normal, like nothing had ever happened. I'd almost forgotten about Jackson until I got a call from Reed Valentine's week. Instead of his usual upbeat self, he greeted me by saying, "Bad news, Bobby. This Jackson Fairchild guy, he's a real scumbag." What can I say? February was rough. 4 months later, I wasn't surprised when Tracy announced we'd been invited to Jackson's beach house on Figure 8 Island for a 4th of July weekend. It seems Lou, Tracy's boss, had invited a pretty large group, including himself, his wife Marna, and a few couples who were friends with Fairchild. Tracy said the plan was to arrive Friday afternoon, July 3rd, and leave Monday noon, the 6th. Jackson had a schedule of activities set up, like cookouts each day, an open bar, swimming, boating, whatever the weather allowed. I objected immediately. "We have plans to go to D.C. with the kids that week, remember?" I reminded her, trying to keep my voice even. "The kids are really excited, Tracy. This could be the last family trip before they're all caught up in schoolwork, and then college. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." I'd planned that D.C. trip back in April, right after I learned that Tracy and Fairchild were planning to spend the 4th together. My friend Reed had helped me organize the whole thing, from using points to book a hotel room, to getting us invites to a rooftop party with a killer view of the National Mall, where the best fireworks in the country would be going off. It was going to be an amazing trip, and when I told Tracy that it was a reward for great performance at work, she clearly wasn't thrilled. But she couldn't find a reason to refuse, since the kids were so excited. At the time, she'd just said, "Great, Bobby." And yet, 6 weeks later, here she was throwing this at me. Spending a weekend at Figure 8 with a self-made billionaire could make or break my career. "Bobby, I've talked to the parents. They'll take the kids to D.C., and you and I can go to the beach." Tracy didn't wait for a response, she just turned away. I almost couldn't believe my ears. I yelled, loud enough that I rarely used that voice, "Tracy, Turn around and talk to me properly. You can abandon the kids, but you don't get to do that to your husband. Do you understand that? She turned around, a mix of anger and fear in her eyes. In all our years together, I'd never spoken to her like that. I said slowly, "The hotel reservations are all in my name. If your parents pretend to be me, it's fraud. This crazy plan of yours isn't going anywhere, Tracy." Before she could respond, I paused as if I'd just realized something. "Wait, you said Jackson Faircloth?" I deliberately mispronounced his name to see her reaction. "You know his name is Jackson Fairchild, Bobby." Tracy snapped, her voice a little too high, like she was correcting a child. I pressed on, giving her no time to regain her composure. "Is that the name of the guy I dragged you out of the car at the Christmas party?" I asked, deliberately dropping my voice to make my words heavy. She instantly flushed, clearly embarrassed. Tracy opened her mouth to say something, but I didn't let her. "First of all, he's not a billionaire. I checked on Google, and he's not even close to having a tenth of that amount. Every dime he has is from his company stock, a company he inflated himself. Fairchild's company was called Kryptonite. His main cryptocurrency was called Doubloon, and it was nothing but a scam. I'm buddies with the security researcher who cracked Doubloon's main certificate. Fairchild has been faking his financial reports for the past 2 years, just to pump up the price of his coin. When Doubloon collapses, Kryptonite will collapse with it. At that point, he'll be poorer than us, and he might even go to jail." I paused, looked her straight in the eye, and added, "And after what he did to you at that Christmas gala, I wouldn't go near him, even if he was having a heart attack. I saw you and him kissing in the back of his car, for God's sake." That was, of course, a fabrication. I'd seen nothing. But I wanted to see what her reaction would be. Her face turned red, her eyes darting around, unable to meet mine. And that was all the confirmation I needed. "You're not going to deny it this time, are you?" I asked, my voice gentle, but laced with innuendo. "You're not going to scream at me, play the victim, are you?" I dug my heels in, my voice firm. "We're not going to his beach house." Tracy looked at me, clearly furious, but also a little confused. "I already agreed, Bobby. Changing my mind now would be disastrous." I stood my ground, replying coldly, "Maybe you should remember the plan we agreed upon. Or, better yet, you should talk to me before you agree to things. Consider this an expensive lesson." Tracy wasn't used to me talking like this. She seemed flustered, watching her carefully laid plans crumble right before her eyes. Turning things around was never her strong suit, and this time was no exception. "Then I'll go without you," she stated flatly. I didn't hesitate, my response devoid of any anger. "If you do that, then it's over." "What did you say?" Tracy asked, surprised, her eyes incredulous. "You heard me," I replied. She laughed, trying to dismiss me. "You're not going to divorce me over a vacation." It wasn't a question, it was a statement. "Try me," I challenged, my voice steady. "You wouldn't do that to the kids, Bobby. You'd never divorce me over something this trivial." She stated again, this time her voice sounding more confident. I looked her straight in the eye, tilting my head slightly. "You're missing out on a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to create memories with me and the kids in D. Instead, you're going to leave them with their grandparents and have a good time with that scumbag Fairchild." I took a deep breath, trying to control myself. "When did you start caring about your kids' happiness? Do you even hear yourself? You know his name is Jackson Fairchild, not Faircloth. You're being childish," she practically shrieked. I considered telling her the whole truth, what Reed had told me on the phone back in February, but I knew that once I said it, things would never be the same. She needed to make her own decisions for this family, for our kids. I took another deep breath and said as calmly as I could, "Okay, listen carefully. Let's be perfectly clear, I'm not letting you go to that guy's house with me or without me. Not ever." I held her gaze, giving her no room to argue. "As far as the 4th of July, the kids and I are going to DC as planned. We agreed on that, all 3 of us, and we want you to come with us. You're welcome to join. But if you choose not to go, then it's over." "You're asking why? It's clear to me that you're infatuated with Jackson Fairchild. That's unacceptable. And I expect you to live up to the rules you've set for yourself about faithfulness." Tracy stood silent, seemingly confused. "What are you talking about, Bobby? Don't you remember the Ada Douglas incident at the office Christmas party 9 years ago?" I reminded her, dredging up a memory she probably wished she could forget. 11 years ago, Ada was new to my team. She was beautiful, a bit of a nerd, but engaging and incredibly smart. She didn't mind being called lottery ticket by our colleagues. Everyone loved Ada, but Tracy hated her, calling her that cow. We were good friends, nothing more. I only knew how she felt about me when she confessed. During a break between meetings, she said that I was the only one who saw her as an equal, not as something to look at. She said she was smitten with me. I'd rejected her outright, saying I was married, and would always be loyal to that commitment. 2 weeks later, Ada, having had too much to drink at the Christmas party, swooped in and tried to make me a victim under the mistletoe. I tried to stop her, and she ended up kissing my cheek. But Tracy, who was going through postpartum depression at the time, couldn't handle it. She blew up when we got home, even demanding that I change departments or quit if I didn't want to lose her. I requested a transfer the next day, even though it stalled my career for 3 years. If it hadn't happened, I'd probably be a VP now instead of a mid-level manager. When I brought it up, Tracy flushed, a little embarrassed. Ada just kissed you on the cheek once, and I asked you never to see her again. You did that without question. What about you? You kissed Jackson Fairchild in his car, and then you planned to go to his house while you're still married. You know that's beyond the pale. But you're so in love, you didn't make a rash decision. When I said one time pass, Tracy's face drained of color. That was the exact phrase Fairchild had used when inviting her to his house, a fact Reed and I had learned a long time ago. I continued, knowing you're in love with someone else is the ultimate pain for me. I'm not going to take it anymore. Tracy started to speak, but before she could react, I stopped her with a calm, cool voice. You should know this isn't a one-time slip-up. This is the hill I'm willing to die on. That's it. No more discussion about this beach trip. I held her gaze, not letting her out of my sight. You should know this is not a one-time slip-up. This is the hill I'm willing to die on. That's it. No more discussion about this beach trip. I walked out, leaving her standing there in silence. I'd never talked to her like that, and she clearly didn't know what to do. Night fell, bringing with it a heavy atmosphere in the bedroom. Tracy, the woman I once loved, was now a ghost in my eyes. Her every look, every gesture, held a coldness and distance that was the polar opposite of the passionate wife I once knew. I climbed into bed, seeing Tracy in a flimsy lace nightgown, as sexy as ever. But the feeling was quickly erased by the coldness, the manipulation I saw in her eyes. I want us to go to the beach, Bobby, she said, her voice sweet but laced with a plea. I didn't respond. The kind of passionate kiss, the tender touch I'd once craved, was now a distant memory. Instead, there were awkward kisses, clumsy gestures, as if we were performing a cold, distant ritual. I promise you we'll have fun. Let's go to the beach, Bobby, Tracy pleaded. No, I replied, my voice flat. 2, 3 times, Tracy's offer was repeated. Her voice became more and more desperate, but I was adamant in my refusal. Tracy's patience finally wore thin. She jumped out of bed and went to the bathroom, slamming the door with a loud thud. 5 minutes later, Tracy emerged, this time in a skin-tight workout outfit, and I suddenly noticed a shift in her demeanor. She wasn't the meek, docile woman she used to be. Instead, she was sharp, her attitude challenging, as if she was trying to assert her power. Oh, Bobby, that's just painful. Too bad you're not going to get any release until you see the light about that beach trip. It's our destiny. As soon as you realize that, you'll be getting the release you need soon enough, she smirked, her voice laced with a touch of sarcasm. I was confused. Tracy had never teased me or manipulated me in such a calculating way. A silent anger flared up inside me. Then, a quote from Tracy's wise old Uncle Phil popped into my head. Why are you laughing? Tracy asked, her face full of suspicion. I just remembered something Uncle Phil told me years ago, I replied, trying to keep my tone even. What's that old goat have to say? Tracy asked, a hint of curiosity in her voice. His quote was, when your woman starts using your sex drive as leverage in an argument, that's a sure sign she's a slut, I said, my voice cold and flat. The shift in Tracy's expression startled me. Anger, hurt, and helplessness flooded her eyes. I knew my misinterpretation was deliberate. I wanted Tracy to be aware of her actions, to understand the shift in our relationship. Tracy burst into tears, grabbed her favorite blanket, and stormed out of the bedroom. The next morning, I woke up to find Tracia cuddled up next to me. As soon as she realized I was awake, she wrapped her hand around my manhood, her voice thick with remorse. "I'm so sorry about last night, Bobby. What I did to try to get you worked up, to manipulate you, was wrong. You're right. That's what a slut would do." "That's not me," Tracy said, her voice trembling. "I already said I'm sorry, sweetie," I replied, my voice sincere. "I forgive you." She rubbed me and said, "Can I make it up to you?" "So you decided to come to DC with us?" I asked, my voice laced with a hint of teasing. "No," she answered, her voice subdued. I removed her hand and said, "Well, then it's best we don't have sex until you've calmed down. Sex right now will only complicate things when we divorce," I said, my voice firm. "Are you serious?" she asked, her voice shocked. "Absolutely," I replied, my voice firm. A few nights later, after cleaning up from dinner, Tracy approached me, her face tense. "Can we talk in private?" I'd seen this coming. I nodded and followed her into the bedroom. We sat on the edge of the bed, the air between us thick with unspoken things. Tracy sighed, then began, her voice sounding sincere. "Bobby, I tried to cancel the beach trip today. I told Lou I couldn't go, and he flipped out. I begged to get out of it, but Lou wouldn't have it. He said that if I didn't go, Jackson would be furious, and it could cost the company a big account. Lou even said I could lose my job if I bailed." She paused, her voice heavy. "I love this job, and there are very few that fit my expertise like this. I have to go." She sounded genuine, her eyes pleading, but I knew better. I sat there, keeping my face impassive, then asked softly, "When did you talk to Lou about this? What time today?" She looked at me, a hint of confusion in her eyes. "What do you mean?" "What time did you talk to Lou today? Morning? Afternoon?" I pressed, my eyes fixed on hers. 3:00, she replied, her worry growing. "Why?" I smiled gently, saying calmly, "When I asked you to pick up pizza tonight, you took my car, right?" Tracy nodded, still not understanding what was happening. "The thing is, I left my phone in the car. Since you seemed so stressed about this trip, I decided to call Lou myself to get the real story. I want to hear what he had to say." I pulled her phone out of my jacket pocket and confidently entered the unlock code. Her jaw dropped in astonishment. She didn't know I knew the new code she'd just changed. "Give me my phone." She jumped up, reaching for it, but I quickly pulled it back from her grasp. "Don't worry," I said, keeping my cool. "I recorded my call with Lou. Let me play it for you so you can hear what Lou said." Before Tracy's stunned eyes, I opened the recording app, hit play, and held up the phone. The phone rang once, and Lou picked up instantly. "Lou, hey, hot stuff. Ready for the big weekend?" Jackson's practically bouncing off the walls with excitement. "Bobby, sorry?" Lou's voice faltered. "Bobby, is that you?" "Bobby, yeah, Lou, it's me. Sorry to bother you, I know you're busy, but Tracy and I have a serious problem. She's totally freaking out, and she said I should talk to you." "Lou, sounds like bad news. Bobby, what's going on?" "Bobby, my mom was just diagnosed, and the nursing home said it's only a matter of weeks. They said she could have as little as 2 to 4 weeks left. We want the whole family there this weekend, all 4 of us. Tracy's really upset about having to cancel the beach trip." "Lou, upset? Why?" "Bobby, she said she's afraid it will upset Jackson Fairchild and make him mad, and that it could cost him a lot of money. Tracy's worried that she might even lose her job." "Lou, well, that's Jackson Fairchild for you, Bobby. Tracy's a real trooper, huh? But you should tell her not to worry. I've been on dozens of these weekend trips, and people have had to back out at the last minute all the time. I even had to skip one this past spring. Jackson's a good guy, he'll understand for sure." "Bobby, so if Tracy bails on this trip, it won't cause any problems for you or the gallery, or inconvenience your friend?" "Lou, no. Absolutely no problem at all. Maybe Jackson will be a little disappointed because, let's face it, he really likes Tracy. The two of them seem really eager to spend time together this weekend." "Bobby, what do you mean, Lou? Is there something going on between them that I don't know about?" "Lou, oh no, you're getting the wrong idea. Nothing like that. They're just really close friends. I often see them chatting for hours every week, that's all." "Bobby, is that so?" "Lou, oh yeah, that's right. Wednesdays are Jackson's day. It's the day Tracy and I have to work late. He comes in around 4:00, and they sit in the coffee shop, chatting away like a knitting group. Jackson stays until we close at 9. Before he leaves, he usually buys something, not because he needs it, but to justify taking up 5 hours of Tracy's time. Tracy cleans up, and we lock up the gallery. Yeah, they're just really close friends. Bobby, so Jackson wouldn't mind if Tracy skipped the weekend trip, right? Lou, not at all. Tell Tracy not to worry. She can skip this one to take care of family. Bobby. Okay, I'll tell Tracy to check back with you tomorrow. Thanks, Lou. You're the best. Lou, I'll say a prayer for your mother, Bobby. Tracy sat there, tears streaming down her face, unable to meet my eyes. She took a deep breath, as if gathering her courage, and snapped. You lied to Lou. Your mom died 3 years ago. I kept my voice steady, replying calmly, and you, Tracy, you've lied to me, and not just once. You lied about your relationship with Jackson. You lied about the beach trip. You lied when you said you'd lose your job if you didn't go. I gently lifted her chin, forcing our eyes to meet. I'm going to give you one chance to tell the truth. Truth means everything, no holding back. She flushed, a mix of shame and tension in her face. I know more than you think, Tracy, I continued. I can verify everything you're about to say. If you lie to me one more time, this marriage is over. So explain to me why Lou calls you hot stuff, and why Jackson is bouncing off the walls with excitement. Tracy looked up at me, bewildered. Bobby, why are you being so serious about this? Is that all you're going to say? I asked, my voice stern. You're willing to throw away our marriage because you're not brave enough to be honest? I took a deep breath, trying to maintain my composure, and said, put yourself in my shoes. What if instead of switching departments after the mistletoe incident with Ada Douglas, I lied to you? Let's say I told you I transferred, but I was secretly meeting Ada every week, developing a romantic connection with her, and letting her undermine my love and respect for you. Then I arranged a weekend trip that I claimed was for us, but the real purpose was to meet Ada. Is that your real purpose for this beach trip? You're going to sleep with Jackson, aren't you? Tracy could hold back her emotions no longer. She crumbled, sobbing uncontrollably. Not the angry cries she'd had before, but the kind of full-blown sobs that come from a broken heart. She reached for me, trying to hold me to seek comfort. But I gently pushed her away. She froze, hurt by my action. Just then, there was a knock on the door. My daughter, Marissa's voice, sounded worried. Mom and Dad, is everything okay? I quickly answered, Mary, Mom and Dad are just arguing about the DC trip again. It's okay, honey. Marissa hesitated, then tried to talk to her mother. Mom, don't you want to go with us? It's going to be so much fun. I smiled reassuringly and spoke softly to my daughter. It's okay, sweetheart. Sometimes grown-ups have to make hard decisions. You gotta respect that, okay? Okay, Dad. I closed the door, leaving Marissa outside, then turned back to Tracy, seeing that she was still crying. It took her a moment to stop, and then she took a deep breath and whispered, Thank you for protecting me in front of her. I didn't think she knew this much. I looked at her, my voice still cold but sincere. Kids are more perceptive than you think, Tracy. I didn't say anything specific, but I'm sure they know more than we think. She nodded, and then, as if finding her courage, she confessed, her voice trembling. The truth is, Bobby, I was going to sleep with Jackson this weekend. He's captivating, strong, looks like a Michelangelo sculpture, and most importantly, he wants me. He makes me feel desirable and special, something I haven't felt in a long time. I haven't been this attracted to anyone since I met you. Tracy paused, as if wanting me to understand, and then continued. I wish you could see him, so you could see that Jackson is truly special. I had to fight hard to maintain my composure, to keep from bursting into mocking laughter at her words. Tracy continued as if her logic was perfectly sound. I don't love Jackson, Bobby. I only love you, and I don't want to lose you. I just crave him physically. Besides the kiss at the Christmas party, I haven't done anything. I swear. I tried to stay good and faithful even though I was tempted. But I can't resist anymore, Bobby. The desire is too strong. I figured just one weekend, and I could satisfy that craving and come back to you, as if nothing had happened. I interrupted her, my voice icy. You just promised what? You think you can promise to be faithful after breaking your vows? Tracy stammered a defense, but then abruptly shifted tactics, her voice confident. This will add a new spark to our relationship. I've heard about a lot of older couples who go through something like this, and it helps their marriage transition into a new stage. filled with more energy and happiness. I found her story both naive and brazen, almost causing me to laugh. But something about the way she said it coldly, as if my feelings weren't worth considering, made me swallow my anger. "I'm curious," I asked softly, keeping my calm. "What did you plan to do to make me agree and trust you on this trip?" Tracy frowned, looking confused. "What do you mean, Bobby? How were you going to bargain with me to let you sleep with another guy? Was Jackson going to hire a high-class escort for me? Or offer you up to me? Or maybe he'd let me see Ada Douglas for 2 days?" Tracy grimaced in disgust. You can forget that." "Why not?" I replied, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Your feelings about Ada are exactly how I feel about Jackson. Honestly, Jackson disgusts me more than Ada ever did. Ada kissed me on the cheek once, but you kissed Jackson in the back of his car." Trash's face drained of color, and then she tried to dismiss it. "No, you can't compare Ada and Jackson." "So how are you going to convince me to accept this?" I asked, meeting her eyes. Tracy avoided my gaze and mumbled, "We're not going to do that. You know the saying, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission, right? So you and Jackson already planned this out. You were going to deceive me, let him get you into bed, and then apologize later. You're very generous." "No, we'd never do anything like that behind your back. That's cheating. Here's the plan. Friday night, you and I will be together. A really special night. I've prepared some new things to make it unforgettable. Then Saturday." Her voice became increasingly enthusiastic, as if she was trying to sell me on an idea. "Saturday, you'll spend most of the day with the other people, doing daytime activities. Jackson and I will keep things clean to build anticipation. After dinner, we'll go out to the beach to watch fireworks. After the fireworks, I'll pull you aside and tell you that Jackson invited me to spend the night with him, and I agreed. I'll head to Jackson's bedroom while you're tired and too exhausted to object." I listened to her plan in disbelief. She was still talking in the future tense, as if she was certain that this was going to happen as planned. "What's going to stop me from punching Jackson in the face for seducing my wife?" I asked, my voice cold. Tracy scoffed. "Have you seen Jackson? He's half a head taller than you, weighs more than you, all muscle, and a dozen years younger. You wouldn't stand a chance, Bobby." "Just because you haven't seen me fight doesn't mean I don't know how," I replied. "I'm also pretty proficient with a gun and a nightstick. You're overestimating your boyfriend's protective abilities." "Be realistic," she replied, her voice dismissive. "You're not a warrior, Bobby. You're just... And what you're doing is just making our relationship a dead end." I couldn't hold back, my voice rising in anger. "God, Tracy." I stood up, ready to leave the room. She grabbed my hand, her eyes pleading. "Please, Bobby, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to insult you, I'm just trying to be realistic. I don't want to see you hurt." I turned back, looking into her eyes. "I will never stand by and watch another man defile my wife, even if it costs me my life. If you don't see that, then maybe you're not worthy of being my wife?" She paused, then nodded, whispering, "I understand. I'm sorry, can I finish describing the plan?" I raised my eyebrows, suppressing my anger. "Whose plan is it? Did you think of it yourself, or did you come up with it with someone else?" She hesitated, then whispered, "We planned it together." "We?" I asked, my voice full of doubt. Tressa avoided my gaze and continued as if she hadn't heard my question. "Sunday, Jackson and I will sail all day. Don't worry, the ladies will be going shopping in Wilmington, and the guys will be deep-sea fishing. I hear everyone will have a great time." I couldn't help but snort a cynical laugh. I hadn't gone fishing since summer camp in 3rd grade, and I'd hated it ever since. Later that day, we'll all come back to the house, happy and tired. Jackson will grill steaks for dinner. Then, Sunday night, I'll spend the night with Jackson on the sailboat. I'll come back around 10 in the morning, Monday. We'll spend the day together. And that night, Tracy looked at me, her voice full of excitement. "We'll have our reclaim night." "Reclaim?" I repeated, not believing my ears. "Yeah. I'll be totally turned on, because I'll have just been with another guy. I'll be primal and passionate, wanting to reassert my ownership of you. Lou and Ralph call it the reclaim." I stopped her, narrowing my eyes. "Lou? Your boss Lou? And who's Ralph?" "Ralph is Jackson's longtime friend. When I had questions, Lou hooked me up with Ralph. Both Louisiana and Ralph have shared wives, and they said the reclaim nights are the best nights of their lives." Tracy gave me a puzzled smile, her eyes sparkling with excitement. I've been thinking about it a lot, Bobby, and I know it will be amazing. I had to fight hard to hold back my amusement at Tracy's naive belief that I'd happily accept her sleeping with Jackson, and then coming back as if nothing happened. Monday morning, Tracy said, her voice brimming with confidence, we'll pack up and come home. And then, I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. You know, when I'm determined, I always get what I want. She paused, as if to add a touch of menace. And you'll pay dearly for letting me do this? I sighed, keeping my voice as calm as I could. Tell me, what makes you think this isn't cheating? She answered instantly, confidently, as if she'd thought about this a lot. Because I'm telling you about it beforehand. It's not cheating if your partner knows about it? You're so wrong, I replied, my voice laced with sarcasm. Communication doesn't mean permission. When we got married, you vowed to be faithful. If you break that vow, whether you tell me beforehand or not, you're still a betrayer. Trashy's eyes widened in shock at my reaction. Then you let me go. You know how badly I want this, and neither of us wants this marriage to fall apart. We still love each other and we want what's best for the kids. So the way out of this mess is for you to let me go. I replied gently, no, Tracy. The only way to avoid breaking a marriage is not to cheat in the first place. It's the cheater who breaks the family, never the person being cheated on. If you truly care about the kids, then you wouldn't do this. She frowned, not happy with my answer. You love me, Bobby. You're not going to divorce me over something this trivial and inconsequential. I felt like I'd heard something unbelievable. You really think cheating is trivial and inconsequential? Do you remember the Ada Douglas incident? That was different. Ada was nobody. Jackson is a great man, a powerhouse, she said, as if that was a valid argument. So when's it my turn? I asked, holding her gaze. What if I get swept away by someone younger, prettier, and more passionate like Jackson is pursuing you? Will I consider that a trivial and inconsequential matter? Tracy recoiled at my question, disgust flashing in her eyes. You love me, Bobby. You wouldn't do that to me. Do you love me as much as I love you? I asked. Of course, she answered, almost without hesitation. I held her gaze. I love you that much, and you're casually plotting this behind my back with Jackson. Trashy lowered her head, her face contorting in pain as I shattered every excuse she'd tried to build. She was flustered, unable to meet my eyes. Your scenario is completely different, Bobby, she mumbled. How so? I asked, my voice even. She sighed, then answered dismissively, you haven't met anyone with Jackson's caliber. That's the difference. Face reality, Bobby, those beautiful, wealthy women aren't lining up to get into bed with you. The disdain in her words was hard to stomach. There it is again, the contempt and lack of respect. I said, my disappointment clear. Let me tell you something, Tracy, if you think Jackson is a better match for you than me, I won't stop you. The door's right there, don't let it hit you on the way out. I don't want to leave you, Bobby, she replied, her eyes pleading. I just want to stay with you and sleep with Jackson. It can totally work if you just chill out a bit. I stood up, meeting her eyes, my voice low and firm. Listen carefully. This is a defining moment for us. Tracy looked up. For the first time, seemingly hesitant. I knew this conversation might be pointless, but I needed to be clear to keep my own sanity. I will never accept you being unfaithful. If you spend the night with someone else, our marriage is over, period. I'm telling you now, and there are no exceptions. Do you understand? Tracy nodded, her eyes glistening, but I didn't see any sincerity. Just the fact that you planned this out is driving me crazy, so I'm drawing a line in the sand. If you cross that line, we're done. I'm taking the day off on Thursday. If you don't tell me that you're going to DC with the family by 9 a.m. that day, our marriage is over. I paused, looking into her confused eyes, then continued, if you don't end your relationship and communication with Jackson completely by 9 a.m. on Thursday, I'll end this marriage too. And if I see you acting remorseful, hurt that you're not allowed to deceive me, we're over. You got that? No exceptions. Frankly, I don't need this, and I don't need you. I'm only giving you this chance out of respect for the 16 years we've had together. It's your decision now. I'm expecting your answer by 9 a.m. on Thursday. I turned to leave when Tracy called out, her voice laced with strange confidence. You wouldn't leave us, Bobby. You're a good man, we love each other too much. I made a mental note to tell the kids to invite their backup friends on the DC trip. If Tracy wasn't coming, no need to fake it for the family. They'd have a much better time if they had a friend along for the adventure. Thursday morning, I woke up to the early sun shining on my face, but my heart felt heavy, as if a giant boulder was sitting on my chest. Tracy, the woman I once loved, was now a ghost, a deep wound in my mind. The harsh reality of her infidelity had almost paralyzed me. With each passing day, Trisha grew more enamored with her new adventure, and even worse, she tried to play it off as if I had agreed to it all. "You're such a good man to indulge me like this, Bobby." "Thanks," she'd say regularly, her voice dripping with saccharine sweetness, mixed with a hint of provocation. The brutal truth only deepened my misery. Tracy had convinced herself that this was no big deal, that it was just a survivable event for us. Amidst those dark days, a small spark of hope emerged. My two kids, Marissa and Maya, both found friends who were okay with me taking them on a DC trip so I could spend time with them as a single dad. I couldn't believe how easily it had all fallen into place. Thankfully, both the moms knew me and were completely cool with it. The bigger surprise was Naomi, Maya's mom and Marissa's friend, who called me 3 times, each time talking for close to an hour. Naomi, a single mom, had asked thoughtful questions about why Tracy wasn't coming on this trip. I tried to answer vaguely, but Naomi, with the intuition of a woman who had been through the ringer, recognized the cracks in our relationship. 4 years ago, I found out my husband was cheating, Naomi shared, her voice calm, but powerful. I knew then that I was getting divorced. Even though I hated him, at the time I believed he was the love of my life. I believed that I was going to be alone and miserable. I was in a dark, sad place. I was wrong. Getting away from someone who's not worthy of you will improve your life, even if you don't have a partner. You won't be lonely if you keep busy. Doing something, even if it's a ridiculously small, pointless thing, is the magic bullet that makes life better. Naomi's advice was a ray of light shining into my soul. She was right. I wouldn't be alone, I'd move on, I'd find joy in life. "If you need a friend to talk to, Bobby, I'm always here for you. Call or drop by anytime," she said, her voice warm and empathetic. Thursday morning, I walked into the kitchen to find Tracy preparing a fancy breakfast for the whole family: pancakes, eggs, hash browns, sausage, and fresh fruit. Everything was set out, but nothing was actually cooking yet. She was beaming, even humming a little tune. My heart sank, dropping to the pit of my stomach. She took a deep breath, her smile confident, and said, "Let's talk before the kids wake up, okay?" She pulled me into the study, closed the door, and looked at me with determination. "I've made a decision, Bobby. I'm going to the beach. I'm going to sleep with Jackson. I know this is selfish and awful, but it's something I need to do. I'm asking you to let me do this. I'm asking you to accept it and give us a chance to heal afterward. Our love is too strong, and I believe we can overcome this selfishness of mine. When you bring the kids back from DC, I'll be home from Figure 8 Island. I'll be ready for you to reclaim me, and it will be good for both of us. You can count on that." Her words sounded rehearsed, and worse, like someone had scripted exactly what she should say. Tracy took another deep breath, gathered her courage, and continued. "Since you're not coming with us to the beach, I'll be staying in Jackson's room the whole weekend, all 4 nights. It should be 2 nights, but since you're not joining us, I'll stay all 4. That's how it's going to be, and I just want to be upfront with you. Jackson assured me that if things don't work out, I can stop at any time. If I'm uncomfortable with anything, I can come home. I promise you that." She paused, searching for the right words. "This week I talked with Jackson a lot about our future. He understands that I want to stay with you and that you're not going to allow this relationship to continue. So we decided to completely end things after this weekend trip. I promised to cut off all communication with him. Nothing, Bobby." Tracy gritted her teeth, trying to sound resolute. "Jackson helped me realize that one of the reasons you're upset is that I have a weekend pass and you don't. He said I should give you a similar pass. I'm going to give you what I've asked for, a 2-day fling. I know it's not fair that I get 4 days and you only get 2, but if you don't stop being stubborn and come to the beach with me, then it's just going to be 2 days for you. That's my decision. I wish you wouldn't use this pass, but I'll let you decide." She continued, her tone earnest. "I only have 2 conditions for your pass. First, you must be upfront about your intentions with me before you act. I've been honest about what I'll be doing this weekend, so I want the same from you. I don't want to one day find out you've been sneaking around and then using the excuse that it's your right. Second, you need to make sure you're safe for swap test results before you engage. Jackson and I did that yesterday, and we're both clear. Tracy looked at me, trying to sound gentle. I won't interfere with who you choose to use the pass with. Jackson helped me realize that I don't get to decide who you pick. If you want to use it with Ada Douglas, I won't complain. But honestly, Bobby, I think that's just devaluing yourself. Ada doesn't hold a candle to me. If you want to match what I'm about to do, you'd have to find someone better than your wife, like me. As soon as those words left her lips, anger boiled inside me. Tracy stammered, her face contorting as she saw my reaction, and she stuttered, "Bobby, I didn't mean it like that. I misspoke." She tried to move closer, to hug me and smooth things over, but I gently placed my hand on her shoulder and pushed her away. She looked at me, waiting in the heavy silence, but I didn't say anything, letting her stand there for a few minutes. And as the silence stretched on, Tracy started to break, tears rolling down her cheeks, sobs catching in her throat. "Aren't you going to say anything?" she finally asked, her voice cracking. "Johnson Faircloth isn't one bit better than me," I replied, my voice sharp as a knife. "Physically, mentally, or morally, he's not one step above me. If you can't see that, then maybe you're not worthy of being my partner. You've just made it easier than ever to kick you out of my life." Tracy sobbed, tears streaming down her face. She tried to hug me again, but this time I pushed her away with more force. "You're wrong, Tracy," I said, my voice firm. "I never gave you any permission to betray me, and I don't need permission from you. I made it clear at the start of the week that if you decided to go to the beach, this marriage would be over, and you just chose to end things." "Please, Bobby, don't let this conversation end like this," Tracy pleaded, her eyes full of panic. I stood up, ready to leave. "Only people who truly love each other can have these kind of difficult conversations, Tracy. That's not where we are anymore. Please, Bobby, we need to talk about this if we want to salvage this relationship," she begged. I turned back, my voice as firm as I could make it. "There's nothing left to salvage here. Not ever." For the first time, Tracy seemed flustered and uncomfortable. "No, don't say that, Bobby. Please, don't say that. You don't think I'm delusional, do you? I told you exactly what would happen. Why are you surprised?" Tracy suddenly looked like someone had thrown a bucket of cold water on her. She stammered, "He told me you'd be fine with this. He said you'd take me back after it was all over." "Who said?" I asked, my voice cold. "Jackson," she whispered, almost unable to look at me. I choked back a cynical laugh. "That son of a gun doesn't know anything about me. I met him for 30 seconds at that gala, that's it. He doesn't know me and he doesn't care about anyone but himself. He lied to get what he wanted." She looked at me, her eyes shifting. "What do you think he really wanted?" I smiled wryly, answering without hesitation, "Jackson Aloysius Fairchild enjoys the feeling of conquest. He likes to turn married women into his playthings, and most of all, he enjoys watching their husbands be humiliated." Tracy frowned slightly, but she tried not to look shaken. "We can work through this, Bobby," she said desperately. "I promise you we'll be okay. Just give me a chance." This time it was my turn to laugh, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "You keep saying things like 'I promise' and 'I swear' as if those words still mean anything. Don't you realize they've lost all meaning? You swore before God, family, and friends to be faithful. And now you're ready to betray me, both physically and emotionally. You're trying to convince me that this is a test of our love. Everything you say only disgusts me more." My words finally broke her, and this time I didn't have the patience to sit there and listen. I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and announced nonchalantly, "I have a busy day. I got a few emails and a work call this morning. Tonight, I have a very important function. It's a work dinner, requires both spouses to attend. If you have any shred of self-respect, you'll come with me. So are you in?" She looked up, her eyes brightening unexpectedly. "Oh, so this is a serious dinner?" Like a heart attack. "I'm leaving the house at 6:15 sharp. If you're not ready, I'll go alone." Tracy chuckled, her eyes becoming mischievous. "Is this a black tie affair? Can I wear something sexy, or should I go for something more discreet?" "Technically, it's a social event tied to work," I replied. "Just dress comfortably for being in public." "I only have one special dress for occasions like this," she replied, her smile enigmatic. I knew exactly what she meant. Tracy would dress to the nines, looking glamorous and alluring, and then try to seduce me after dinner. hoping I couldn't resist and would change my mind. She wanted to show me what I was about to lose, hoping it would make me stay. I left before Tracia could finish making breakfast. Her elaborate meal didn't stir even a flicker of desire in me. I was dressed for work, a collared shirt and a tie. She frowned as she watched me, her voice melancholic. "You're not eating breakfast with us." "I'm not hungry," I replied, my voice flat. More like disgusted. Tracy instantly burst into tears, but I didn't let her emotions sway me. I grabbed my backpack, walked straight to the door, and didn't bother saying goodbye. She hurried after me to the garage door, her voice surprised. "I thought you were taking the day off?" "I have to go to the office. There's something work-related going on tonight," I replied curtly. I drove off, heading straight for Naomi's house. She had a work-from-home job, so I knew I'd find her there. When I opened the door, Naomi smiled brightly, her eyes full of surprise and delight. "What do I owe this unexpected pleasure to?" she asked, looking like she'd just finished her morning workout. "You said if I needed a friend to drop by," I said, feeling a strange sense of relief when I saw her. "Today, I think I'm the one who needs a friend." She smiled, her eyes warm, as if wanting to soothe all my worries. "Want some coffee?" "Yes," I nodded, feeling a bit of peace standing in her small, lively home. "Come in, I'll brew something good for you," she said, opening the door wide to welcome me in, and I realized for the first time that day, things felt a little lighter. Almost 2 hours later, Naomi sat back in her chair, looking at me sympathetically. "Wow, I thought my divorce story was pretty bad. Sorry, Bobby, but you've really blown me away." I nodded, trying to keep my voice steady. "I know you're always fair to both of us, a true friend to both of us. I came here to get a non-biased opinion. The question is, was I too quick to want to end the marriage before she actually cheated?" Naomi shook her head, not even hesitating. "That's a redundant question, Bobby. She emotionally cheated on you. Starting last Sunday, she betrayed you 6 times in her thoughts. I spent years in counseling after my marriage first broke down, and had to go back when it broke down a second time. The therapist told me that after an affair, what kills most marriages is the permanent loss of trust. When I first caught my husband, I let him make amends for 2 months before taking him back. The second time I caught him, his relationship was already serious. It was so much more painful because it wasn't just physical temptation, he was infatuated with the other woman. I should have ended it the first time." "So you don't think he ended things too soon?" I asked, feeling a little lighter after hearing Naomi's share. "Bobby, an emotional relationship is still a relationship. And from what I've been through, I think you did the right thing. I can't tell you for sure legally, but your lawyer will know how to handle it. Whatever you decide, I believe your decisive action was the right thing to do. Remember, I said earlier that being proactive in your decisions will help you be mentally stronger." "Yeah, I remember," I replied. "Well, this is exactly what I'm talking about. And honestly, Bobby, you're doing much better than I did. When I found out my husband was having an affair, both times I completely fell apart." I sat in silence for a while, then sighed and admitted, "Actually, I've been seeing a therapist since February. Back then, I hired a private investigator, and he found their messages. When I learned that they were planning to make things official over the summer, I was so devastated that I had to seek help. The therapist helped me get through it by showing me that this wasn't my fault." I stood up, realizing I had taken up too much of Naomi's time. "Sorry for staying so long. I really don't know how to thank you enough. Naomi, you're a gift from God. They say single moms always need a friend who can help with errands and stuff. I can fix leaky pipes, patch a hole in drywall. If there's anything I can do for you, I'd really love the opportunity to repay you." Naomi smiled, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Actually, there is something you can do for me." "What's that?" She looked at me, hesitated for a second, then asked with a playful gleam in her eye, "Can I smell your hair?" I laughed, finding her request bizarre, but still nodded and leaned down. She stepped closer, inhaled deeply, eyes closed in a look of pure pleasure, and then let out a satisfied mem, like she'd just smelled her favorite baked good. "Oh my God. That's it," she said, and her chest accidentally brushed against my arm. I looked up smiling. "I can ask, what's that about?" She giggled. "Back in college, I realized that the more I liked the smell of a guy, the more compatible we were, and the better the romance was. I think it's some sort of pheromone chemistry thing." I grinned, unable to hide my curiosity. "So what about me?" Naomi looked at me, eyes playful and a bit teasing. I love the smell of you. Your man's scent is one of the best I've ever smelled. I bet if we were together, it would be incredible, she said with a mischievous grin that made me chuckle. My heart started to pound as I processed Naomi's words. Like a fool, I wondered if she was subtly indicating a special interest, until I realized of course she was. Without thinking, I took a good look at her. Unlike Tracy, who was only slightly shorter than me, Naomi was a full 6 inches shorter, slender and perfectly proportioned. Her features were delicately beautiful with high cheekbones, a delicate jawline, and sparkling brown eyes. When she looked up at me with her signature smile, her high nose bridge accentuated her beauty even further. My eyes instinctively drifted down her body. She was wearing yoga pants and a form-fitting top that hugged her lean, athletic frame. If Tracy was full-figured and voluptuous with wide hips and large breasts, then Naomi possessed the toned waist, long legs of a runner, and the graceful body of a dancer. While her breasts weren't as large as Tracy's, they were perfectly shaped and balanced, impossible to ignore. Of course, I've always admired Naomi's personality. She's intelligent, sharp, and probably the most captivating woman in Tracy's circle of friends, even compared to Tracia. Naomi is an impressive and attractive woman, no doubt about it. I raised my eyebrows, offering a playful grin as if to silently ask, "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" The way she looked back at me was a complete and utter declaration. A look so full of emotion and unspoken suggestion that I'd never forget it. Naomi had a way of being so clear with just her eyes and smile. She pulled me down onto the couch, sat beside me, and softly said, "Okay, I'll be honest. I've had a thing for you since before I got divorced." I looked at her, surprised and honestly a little bewildered. "For me?" "Yes, you have so many qualities you don't even realize. You're a handsome man, fit, smart, and funny. You love your wife, and you treat her with respect. Actually, you treat all the women in our social circle with kindness, even those who are less deserving. You're the most incredible dad any of us have ever seen. The moms in the group even joke that just watching you play with the kids makes them swoon. We all envy Tracy." Naomi paused, her gaze softening. "After my divorce, knowing a man like you existed in the world was such a boost. I wanted you, but I could never intrude on someone else's marriage, so I told myself I'd never have a chance. I haven't been with anyone in 2 years. After the divorce, I had a few short-term flings, but I haven't found anyone I truly cared about since then until now." She looked up, her eyes shining. "I know you're going through a lot and that you might not be ready for anything serious right now. But when you are, I want to be the first for you. No obligation, just a little fun between 2 consenting adults. That's all I want." I felt the heat rising in my face, and I must have turned beet red with surprise. Naomi chuckled, enjoying my reaction. I replied, half joking, "The answer is always going to be of course." She laughed even louder, resting her head on my arm, making everything feel strangely comfortable. After a while, I joined in and teased, "So can I smell your hair?" Naomi grinned, playfully, "Of course." She turned, pulling her soft, curly brown hair up, revealing the back of her neck. I leaned down, inhaling deeply. Naomi smelled sweet and clean, a naturally intoxicating scent that took me by surprise. She actually smelled better than Tracy, a natural allure that I couldn't deny. "Wow," that was all I could manage to say. Naomi giggled, whispering softly, "I told you, didn't I?" I knew it. I looked at her, eyes wide with wonder. She raised an eyebrow, teasing, "Do you think you'll ever come to visit me, Bobby?" "I'll be back from DC next week," I responded, trying to keep my voice normal, but I couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. That got another laugh out of her. I loved hearing her laugh. She said, "I've always liked your sense of humor." I was only half kidding. I planned to sever all bridges leading to Tracy at that point. After leaving Naomi's, I returned home. Tracy was out somewhere, and the kids were at the neighborhood pool. To alleviate my anxiety, I ran for an hour until I felt completely exhausted. I emerged from the shower that afternoon to find Tracy entering the master bedroom, having just returned from a long afternoon at the spa. She'd had a facial, maybe even a massage, and her freshly cut and styled hair was wrapped in a turban like something out of the 60s. She wore bizarre, single-use flip-flops with foam separators between her toes to protect her freshly polished nail polish. Tracy glanced at me in the mirror and offered a sly smile, As if sending a message, "Get ready, Bobby." "You going to be in here long?" she asked, her voice gentle but as sharp as a knife. "I really want to have my bathroom and closet to myself until I'm all prepped." "Just 2 more minutes, then I'll get my clothes out of here," I responded, trying to maintain my composure. "I'll change in the guest room." I quickly shaved, combed my hair, threw on a t-shirt and boxers, then grabbed my best outfit, socks, shoes, and belt from the closet. By then, Tracia had changed into a short terracloth robe and was smiling expectantly. Just as I was about to leave the room, she called me back. "Bobby, wait. I want to show you something." I turned around. Tracy lifted the bottom of her robe, revealing her hip area. She'd gotten a full Brazilian wax, and it was obvious she wanted me to notice. I looked at her with a completely neutral expression. She said proudly, "Not shaving, babe. I got waxed." "Oh, really? Did you get Jackson waxed too over your big weekend?" I said, my voice flat. "Thank you for making me feel so humiliated before it even started. Tell me, how much did I pay for the salon so you could get dolled up for him? Or did Jackson pay?" I stopped myself, holding up my hand before she could answer. "No, don't bother. The answer won't make it any better, just make me feel worse." I turned to leave, but she cried out in despair, "Bobby, no. I did it for you. You've been begging me to do this for years. I did this for you." I paused, the sheer audacity of it stopping me in my tracks. "We've long established that everything you do is for you, not for me, not for us. I don't even think you remember how to spell us anymore." My tone was even, but laced with sarcasm. Tracy looked at me, her face contorted in pain, just like I'd expected. "That's not true. I did this for you. Friday night will be a special gift I want to give you, a night you'll never forget. I went all out to show you my appreciation." "Stop. I don't want to hear it." I cut her off, my voice icy. "I need to say this, Bobby." Tracy looked at me, her eyes pleading, the desperation in her eyes forcing me to listen. "This Friday is for you, but I won't be here, so we'll do it tonight. I'm not showing you this wax thing to hurt you. I just want you to know that tonight is for you. I want tonight to be the most special night we've ever had together." She spoke with both hope and anticipation. I looked at her for a moment, then replied, my voice gentle but unrelenting, "Let me make something very clear, something that you seem determined to miss. If you weren't planning on cheating on me this weekend, then no best night ever is necessary. You spent all day at the spa getting ready for someone else. We've been married for 17 years, and you've never gone this far out for me, not even on our wedding day. No matter what you say, Jackson is the only reason you're doing this now. You can rationalize it, but that's the truth." Her face blanched for a second, as if she was finally grasping what I was saying. I continued, not letting her respond. "Also, all the extra preparation, the special grooming, and the new skills you've been learning, if they were really for me like you say, why are they happening now, right before you're planning to be with Jackson? Do you understand?" Silence, but her guilty expression answered for her. "I remember you calling this weekend with him a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You wanted to experience a powerful man like him. Lou, his wife Marna, and their friends are all expecting this exciting performance from Jackson. Am I right?" She flushed but didn't deny it. "You're hoping Jackson will blow your mind, and in return you're getting everything ready to make him remember you. You're going to make him a memory, someone you'll never forget. Am I right?" Silence, but her apologetic expression confirmed it. "So, don't lie to me. Don't try to convince me these preparations were for me. You've had 17 years to do those things for me, and you never did. It's clear this is all to get ready for him, a gift you want him to never forget." Tracy opened her mouth to object, but I stopped her. "Have you reassessed our sexual relationship since you met Jackson?" Tracy shook her head. "How would you assess our sexual relationship since you caught me kissing him at the Christmas party?" I asked. "I don't remember," Tracy stammered, her eyes wide with panic, as if desperately trying to find the answer in the fragmented memories. I stood there, looking at her face, disappointment and anger brewing inside me. "The 4 adjectives I would use are infrequent, lazy, lackluster, and obligatory," I said, my voice calm but laced with frustration. "The party was 2 weeks before Christmas. It's July now. That's just under 7 months. We have been intimate 6 times in the past 7 months, once a month except for last month, June. We didn't have sex in June, and both times I tried to initiate things you said you had cramps. Those two separate instances were 16 days apart, and both times you didn't actually have your period. Shock registered on her face. Tracy, the woman I once loved, was now grappling with the brutal reality of the imbalance in our relationship. I finally figured out that I'm not as stupid as you think I am. Sometimes I realize when you're lying to me straight up. In those 7 months, I did everything in my power to turn you on and make our sex life more exciting. I got zero response from you. I could not turn you on no matter what I tried, I said, my voice trying to remain steady, but revealing the frustration and anger that was building. You have been uninterested in our sex life for months, and you believe suddenly you need to get waxed for me to have the most amazing night of sex of my life. The truth is that this special night of sex you've planned is to make you feel better about what you're about to do this weekend, I said, my voice becoming serious, pushing Tracy to acknowledge the painful truth. Your emotional manipulation is unbearable and I'm not going to be part of it, I declared, my voice firm, no longer gentle like it used to be. I refuse to accept your pity so that you can soothe your guilt. I want you to feel every ounce of guilt you deserve. You deserve to feel this way. I turned and walked out, not waiting for Tracy to offer any kind of explanation. I didn't want to hear her flimsy excuses anymore. I wanted to get away from her manipulation and deceit. I wanted to find some peace for myself. Tracy came down the stairs an hour and a half later, looking every bit the blooming rose. I have to admit, her plan to get it on with me before her figure 8 island weekend was serious business. She's a warrior. Her cobalt blue cocktail dress hugged her curves, a statement of her sexy intentions. Blue was the color she wore when she wanted to be noticed, the same color she wore at last year's Christmas party. The neckline was plunging, showcasing Tracy's ample bosom, making my heart want to dance. The dress was body-hugging, leaving no room for imagination about her curves, and the skirt was flared, falling 2 inches below her knees, making her legs look even longer, creating a captivating hole. I stared at her, imagining her completely naked beneath that dress. But I know Tracy, she hates feeling wet, she's scared of odor, and she'd definitely be wearing some kind of underwear. As if reading my mind, she grabbed the skirt, lifted it slightly, revealing black lace thong underwear with a matching garter belt, holding up sheer black stockings. In 17 years of marriage, I'd never seen her wear a garter belt before. I looked at her with a mixture of surprise and bewilderment. Tracy dropped the skirt, giggling, enjoying the thrill of teasing me. In her left hand, she held a pair of expensive, very fashionable pointed-toe stilettos. It was clear they'd only been worn a few times. I could see the word Manolo imprinted on the inside of the shoe. I felt a twinge of anxiety thinking about their price. Tracy smiled triumphantly at my reaction. Like what you see, her tone wasn't a question. Your dress is beautiful, but it's a bit daring for you, I said appreciatively. Are you uncomfortable in it? She chuckled. This is the first time I've worn it, but I'm getting used to it now. As soon as the words left her mouth, she realized she'd made a mistake. In a disappointed and humbled tone, I said, "Oh, how embarrassing. You've been dining with high rollers and keeping me in the dark." My statement wasn't a question. I'm guessing you were on a date with Faircloth? How humiliating. I gotta tell you, Tracy, when you decide to humiliate a guy, you gotta hit him where it freaking hurts. She gestured as if she were about to cry. I said, no, it's better if you toughen up and squash that emotional urge right now. We don't have another half hour for you to reapply your makeup. We're taking your car so you don't have to flash your whore ass to the world while you climb into my truck. I said it to make her mad. I knew her anger would kill the urge to cry, and I was right. Queen City 502 was a high-end members-only club, essentially an upscale bar and steakhouse, but with more subtle, private sophistication. In addition to the elegant dining room, they have a dozen or so private parlors, each decorated to emulate the sitting rooms of aristocratic British homes in the 1800s. People could go to the restaurant, eat, and then rent a parlor for a drink and private conversation in a cozy setting. Then they could return to their table, order more food, and continue their conversation in the segregated space. Of course, I wasn't a member of QC 502. That was the playground of the super rich, but my college roommate, Reed Powell, was. Reed was well connected, and he easily got an acquaintance to arrange this special evening for me. Tracy took my arm as we entered the club, even though I hadn't asked her to. The whole way, she didn't say a word, her face contorted with anger and resentment, and that was perfectly fine with me. We approached the reception area and the hostess beamed when she saw Tracy. "Miss Sprague, so good to see you, and on a Thursday night again. Is Mr. Fairchild joining you tonight?" Tracy flushed and shot me a worried glance. "No, Nora, I'm with my husband tonight." As soon as the word husband came out, Nora's eyes widened in surprise, but she quickly recovered. "I'm Bobby Sprague," I said. "We're joining Reed Powell's party tonight." Nora smiled professionally. "Of course, Mr. and Mrs. Sprague. Please follow me." As we walked through the hallway, Tracy whispered to me, "What's Reed doing here, Bobby?" "You've been here with Jackson, right? They know you as Ms. Sprague? Or did you take your wedding ring off when you were with him?" I asked, my voice steady. Tracy's face reddened, but she still managed to maintain a defiant expression. "I told you this was business, babe." "You're wrong," I replied. "I said this was a business event, not business." "Are you doing business with Reed?" she asked. "You'll find out soon enough," I replied. We were ushered into a palatial parlor, decorated in the Victorian British style, with leather, mahogany, fine velvet, and lace curtains creating an atmosphere of luxury. Reed was there, talking to a few people. He stopped and walked over to greet Tracy warmly when he saw us, even giving her a light kiss on the cheek. "It's a surprise to see you here, Reed. Is Heather here?" Tracy asked, her voice betraying her confusion. Reed shook his head, smiling. "Sorry, Tracy, she's at home with the kids. We're going out to the Hamptons this weekend with my boss. Heather's excited about it. She's always wanted to be part of the Hamptons crowd. You know me, though, not really my scene to mix it up like that." Then Reed turned to me, shaking my hand and hugging me like an old friend. "How are you doing, partner?" he asked. "As expected," I replied tersely. Reed nodded, understanding. This brief exchange caused Tracy to visibly slump, realizing that Reed knew about her situation, and that pleased me. Reed introduced us to the other people in the room. Ben Daniels was a man in his 50s with a kind face. Arturo Delgado, a Hispanic man in his 30s, looked strong like an ex-military man. Dr. Julia Costa was a beautiful woman with a classic Italian look and a slightly accented English voice. Ami Boudreau, a woman who stood close to 6 feet tall with a lean, athletic build, looked like a professional sportswoman. Jamal, an African-American man in his 20s, was impeccably dressed, every detail of his outfit perfectly refined. We sat down, and Reed said, "Julia just told us the story of her first time in the U.S. Julia launched into a story about a broken water pipe under her kitchen sink while her husband was away on a business trip. Not knowing how to handle such a situation in a foreign country, she struggled to find a plumber without any success. Julia was a natural storyteller, humorously graceful even when speaking English. The punchline of the story had a slight awkwardness that made everyone erupt in laughter. It was a fantastic icebreaker. As the laughter subsided, a man dressed in a butler's uniform entered, a cosmopolitan in hand, placed it gently in front of Tracy, and said, "Your usual cosmopolitan, Ms. Sprague." Tracy raised her eyebrows slightly, politely saying, "Thank you, Bernie." She tried to act as if the incident was nothing. Bernie smiled, then went over to a cart, opening it to reveal a small, mobile bar, and introduced himself, "I'm Bernie, and it's a pleasure to be of service this evening." He went around the room, expertly and subtly serving drinks to each person. I ordered a double bourbon and Bernie dropped a large, perfectly round ice cube in it. Once everyone had their drinks, Bernie closed the bar and bowed. "If you need anything else or would like to order dinner, just pull the cord on the wall. I'll be right there. Please, enjoy yourselves." As Bernie left the room, Julia turned to Tracy and asked, "Ms. Sprague, do you come here often?" Tracy laughed, saying, "Call me Tracy, Dr. Costa." She paused, then added, "I don't correct Bernie because I don't want to make him feel awkward. I've been here maybe 5 times for dinner and once for lunch. How about you, Julia?" Julia laughed amicably. "Just call me Julia. I haven't been here yet, but I've heard great things about it. I've been looking forward to tonight for 3 weeks. Tracy, can you tell us what to expect?" Tracy thought for a moment, then said, "As you can see, the service here is impeccable down to the finest detail. This is the kind of place you could come back to 10 years later and the staff would remember your name, remember your usual drink. That's the class of this place." The group nodded in appreciation. Julia asked excitedly, "I hear the food is fantastic too. Can you give us a little scoop?" Tracy described the dishes she'd tried, The seafood, pasta, and the fish. She emphasized both were great, but I wouldn't order them again. The real star is the prime rib, a culinary experience that feels like you've gone back to the Gilded Age. If you try it, I guarantee you'll never want anything else. The group then shared some of their most embarrassing but humorous stories. It was Tracy's turn, and she shared a story I'd never heard before. It involved a college fraternity party where her boyfriend at the time dragged her into a dark room to kiss. But when they entered the room, she realized she wasn't kissing her boyfriend, but his big brother in the fraternity. The truth was revealed when he started taking his clothes off and revealed himself. Her boyfriend was also naked in the room, and the realization made her so furious that she grabbed all their clothes and threw them in the trash before leaving. She ended the story with a line that made everyone erupt in laughter. "I never got my favorite bra back." The laughter was roaring. Tracy was enjoying the reactions until she met my eyes. Her expression changed when she realized that I wasn't comfortable with her story. It was the first time I'd heard her admit to such a wild adventure. Internally, I found myself wondering for the 1,000th time since the Christmas party, who is this woman, and what has she done with the wife I once knew? Before I could say anything, Reed clapped his hands and said loudly, "Before we get to Bobby's story, I have to admit, I'm starving. How does everyone feel about dinner now?" Everyone opted for the prime rib, just like Tracy had suggested. The food was indeed excellent, and Tracy reveled in the praise for her choice. Although the group had different backgrounds and stories, the conversation flowed organically, making for a fun and memorable evening. While eating, they discussed the stories they'd shared. Jamal, in particular, had the whole table roaring with laughter. He grew up in a well-to-do part of Lower Harlem, the son of an obstetrician and a lawyer. When he was 12, his mother, Dolores, left the family for a woman named Jeanette, who had been one of Dolores' patients. Jeanette was also a happily married woman, expecting her first child with her husband. 6 weeks later, they both abandoned their families and ran off to Paris, leaving two families shattered. Jamal told the story of his father's subsequent panic, who decided to move the whole family to Charlotte to become a communications copyright manager for NASCAR. In a humorous voice, Jamal had the whole table laughing with his story about his fish-out-of-water experience adjusting to a completely new city. Throughout the dinner, Tracy only had half a glass of wine and avoided overeating, a clear indication that she still had plans to spend the evening her own way with me, with the intention of turning it into a special night as she had said. But to me, all that did was make her more unfamiliar. After dinner, we returned to the parlor. A large-screen TV was already set up on a rolling cart. When the door closed, Reed turned to Tracy and spoke. "Tracy, before dinner we didn't get to Bobby's most embarrassing story, because the truth is, everyone here already knows," he said, his voice calm but loaded with meaning. "The story is about him pulling you out of the back seat of Jackson Fairchild's car in December, and he's been unable to stop your relationship with him ever since." The statement stunned Tracy. She immediately became angry, her eyes flashing with rage. "How could you? How dare you share our private business with strangers? This is humiliating." She stood up, her voice sharp and filled with resentment. Instantly, Ami, the tall, strong woman, rose from her chair, quickly stepping in front of Tracy, blocking her from me. Standing 3 inches taller and much more athletic, Amy stared down Tracy, forcing her to retreat and sit back down on the couch. I quickly took the empty chair Amy had vacated while she sat down beside Tracy, never taking her eyes off her. "Tracy, this is not an attack," Reed said, his voice measured. "As I said, this is an intervention. We're here to stop you from making a major mistake. We want you to stay and listen, because you're in real danger. Can you be patient and polite enough to hear us out?" Tracy glanced around the room, then sighed, crossing her arms and sitting back, clearly reluctant. "Okay, I'm listening." Reed nodded. "Our group has been meeting online for months now, so everyone here knows each other. But you only know me. Let me introduce everyone and their role in this." He began pointing to each person in the room. "Ben is our lawyer. He's been practicing in North Carolina for 30 years, and he will represent Bobby's interests in any upcoming legal action against Jackson Fairchild and any accomplices." "Dr. Julia Costa," Reed said, gesturing towards Julia, "is a forensic psychologist and criminal profiler. She's here to profile Jackson Fairchild and give us accurate assessments." "Ami," he continued, "is a private security expert. She will be your bodyguard for the next few weeks, because we believe you need protection during this time." Jamal just graduated from Carolina and is entering law school in the fall. He'll be working with Ben this summer and will act as our litigation paralegal. And finally, Arturo. Reed pointed towards the seasoned-looking man. Arturo is a private investigator. Right after the incident at the Christmas gala, Bobby called me and shared that you were acting very strangely. I hired Arturo to investigate Jackson Fairchild, and he's uncovered a lot of disturbing information since then. Tracia's eyes widened in horror, her voice trembling. You've been tailing Jackson for half a year? She seemed to understand that she was being monitored too. Reed nodded. Yes, and we believe we have a clear picture of things. But you seem to be missing the whole picture. This gathering was arranged to give you the most honest and complete perspective so you can make the right decisions. This is no different than psychological torture, she complained, her arms still crossed in front of her. I know you're all on Bobby's side. How do I know anything you're saying is true? Reed took a deep breath. Tracy, this isn't about sides. We're all professionals in our field. That means we don't let personal feelings get in the way, and we focus solely on the truth. We're not here to judge or criticize you for what you've done. We're not taking sides. We just want you to have the safety and security you need. Trashy looked around the room, suspicious. So you all think Jackson Fairchild is dangerous, right? Reed responded. If anyone in this room thinks Jackson Fairchild is a dangerous threat, please raise your hand. Everyone, except Tracy, raised their hand. Seeing that, the uncertainty began to creep across her face. We'll go through everything one by one, Reed continued, his voice serious. Hopefully, with objective and unbiased information, you'll understand that ending this relationship with Jackson Fairchild is the wisest decision. Reed handed Arturo the remote control, and Arturo stepped forward, starting a presentation on the large screen. Slide after slide displayed evidence and information related to Jackson. And that's part one of the story, the beginning of a journey full of surprises and challenges. Stay tuned to uncover the hidden secrets and the exciting twists and turns ahead. And don't forget to subscribe and let me know your thoughts on this part in the comments. See you in the next part.